Cassian Vale straightened his silver diplomatic sash as he surveyed the crowded atrium of the Celestial Spire, the most prestigious venue on Station Harmony. Tonight's Interstellar Trade Summit Gala brought together representatives from 47 different species, each one more powerful and influential than the last. At 29, Cassian was the youngest human ever appointed to Galactic Diplomatic Corps, a position he'd earned through years of tireless study and perfect execution of protocol. The atrium glowed with bioluminescent plants from the Verdani homeworld, their soft emerald light dancing across the assembled guests. Towering chroma delegates with their crystalline exoskeletons mingled with the flowing, aquatic tide callers who floated in specialized gravity bubbles. The air hummed with a dozen different languages, all filtered through universal translators that rendered conversation smooth and effortless. Cassian accepted a glass of Andromedan nectar from a passing server drone, his sharp green eyes constantly scanning the room. Diplomacy wasn't just about what was said in meeting chambers. The real work happened in moments like these, in quiet conversations between courses, in the subtle body language that transcended species barriers. He learned early that success in this field meant reading every room, noticing every detail, missing nothing. That's when he saw her. She stood near the grand buffet table, and she absolutely did not belong. While every other guest wore formal attire suitable for their species, this woman wore a worn leather jacket over a faded shirt that had seen better days. Her skin held an iridescent purple sheen that marked her as Stellarian, a nomadic species known for their natural ability to navigate through space using cosmic winds. Her hair fell in waves of deep midnight blue, and her eyes shone like polished silver in the emerald light. But what captured Cassian's attention wasn't her appearance. It was her complete and utter disregard for the social theater happening around her. She was systematically sampling every dish on the buffet table with the focused determination of someone who hadn't eaten in days. When a Chromid ambassador gave her a disapproving look, she simply smiled and took another helping of crystallized fruit. Cassian should have alerted security immediately. Gate crashers at diplomatic events were serious security risks. Yet something made him pause. Perhaps it was the way she moved with such unself-conscious grace, or the slight smile playing at her lips as she discovered a particularly delicious morsel. Whatever the reason, he found himself walking toward her instead of toward the security station. She looked up as he approached, those remarkable silver eyes meeting his without a trace of guilt or concern. If anything, she looked mildly annoyed at the interruption. Up close, Cassian could see the faint shimmer of stardust in her skin, a Stellarian trait that became more pronounced when they were healthy and well-fed. Despite her shabby clothing, she was breathtaking. "Just here for the free food," she said before he could speak, popping a blue pastry into her mouth. Her voice had a melodic quality that made even those simple words sound like music. "I'm leaving anyway, so you can save the speech about unauthorized guests and security protocols." Cassian blinked, caught off guard by her directness. In his world, conversations were elaborate dances of implication and subtext. No one simply said what they meant. "I'm Cassian Vale, human diplomatic representative to Galactic Trade Council," he said, falling back on formal introduction. "Congratulations," she replied, reaching for a plate of something that looked like seafood but glowed faintly orange. "That must be exhausting." "Excuse me?" Pretending to care about all these people and their tedious problems. She waved her hand at the gathered dignitaries, smiling until your face hurts while they all try to outmaneuver each other for trade advantages they don't actually need. She bit into the glowing seafood, and her eyes widened with pleasure. "Oh, this is incredible. What is this?" "Luminous prawns from Coral Prime," Cassian answered automatically, then shook his head. "You can't just crash a diplomatic summit and raid the buffet." "Clearly I can, since I'm doing exactly that." She extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Thera, Soulwind, captain and sole crew of the cargo runner Star Dancer. Pleased to meet you, diplomat." Her hand was warm in his, and Cassian felt an unexpected spark at the contact. "You're a trader?" "Salvager, actually. I recover lost cargo, repair abandoned equipment, that sort of thing. Not glamorous work, but honest." Thera's expression grew more serious. Or was honest until corporations started claiming everything in open space as their property. Hard to make a living when every asteroid belt and debris field suddenly has a corporate ownership stamp. Cashin felt a twinge of discomfort. He'd been involved in drafting some of those expanded territorial claims. The regulations are necessary for organized development of space resources. The regulations are choking independent operators out of existence, Thera countered, but her tone wasn't angry, just matter of fact. In 5 years, the only beings fly will be corporate employees. No more freedom. No more going where you want when you want. She studied him curiously. Does that sound like progress to you? Before Cashin could formulate a response, a commotion erupted near the main entrance. A delegation of Vexian trade lords had arrived, their segmented bodies glittering with expensive metals, their reputation for ruthless business practices preceding them like a dark cloud. Cashin's superior, Ambassador Rothman, was gesturing urgently in his direction. I have to go, he said reluctantly. Of course you do. Important diplomat things. Thera grabbed 2 more pastries and tucked them into her jacket pockets. Thanks for not calling security. Vale, you're more interesting than I expected. Wait, Cashin said as she turned to leave. How did you even get past station security? This level requires biometric clearance. Thera's smile was pure mischief. Let's just say I'm very good at being where I'm not supposed to be. She gave him a casual salute with 2 fingers. Enjoy your party, diplomat. Try to remember what freedom tastes like. She disappeared into the crowd with the ease of smoke dissipating, leaving Cashin standing alone with a glass of untouched nectar and a strange sensation in his chest. Ambassador Rothman's increasingly urgent signals finally broke through his distraction, and he moved to join the Vexian delegation, his mind still replaying silver eyes and a voice like music. The negotiations with the Vexians lasted 3 hours and accomplished exactly nothing of substance, as Cashin had predicted. By the time the gala ended and he returned to his modest quarters in the diplomatic wing, exhaustion had settled into his bones. But sleep didn't come easily. He kept thinking about Thera's words, about freedom and honesty and the cost of progress. His communication terminal chimed softly, a message with no return signature, just a short line of text and a set of coordinates. If you ever want to see what the galaxy looks like without a diplomatic filter, start Dancer Docks at these coordinates. The real food is better out here anyway. Cashin stared at the message for a long moment. He should delete it. He should report the security breach. He should forget about the purple-skinned salvager with silver eyes and a talent for saying exactly what she thought. Instead, he saved the coordinates. Cashin spent the next 2 days trying to focus on his work. The summit continued with its endless parade of negotiations, trade agreements, and carefully worded treaties that meant everything and nothing simultaneously. He sat through meetings about mining rights in the outer reaches, listened to disputes over shipping lanes through neutral space, and drafted recommendations for resource allocation that would affect billions of lives across dozens of worlds. But his mind kept drifting to coordinates he'd memorized and a woman who crashed a diplomatic gala for the free food. On the 3rd day, everything changed. Cashin was reviewing reports in his office when Ambassador Rothman burst through the door, his normally composed face flushed with panic. The older man's hands trembled as he activated the privacy field, sealing them from any outside surveillance. We have a catastrophic situation, Rothman said without preamble. The quantum core blueprints have been stolen. Cashin felt his blood run cold. The quantum core was humanity's most significant technological breakthrough in decades, a power source that could revolutionize space travel and energy production. The prototype designs were kept under the highest security protocols, accessible only to a handful of people. How is that possible? We don't know, but if those blueprints reach certain parties, especially the Vexian Consortium or the Dracoth Empire, it could shift the entire balance of galactic power. Rothman sank into a chair, suddenly looking much older than his 60 years. The Council is conducting an official investigation, but between you and me, I think it's an inside job. Someone with diplomatic immunity. Which means the investigation will be slow and political, Cashin said, understanding the implications immediately. By the time they navigate jurisdictional issues and diplomatic protocols, the blueprints could be anywhere in the galaxy. Exactly. And if war breaks out because of this, humanity will be caught in the crossfire. Rothman met his eyes. We need to find those blueprints before the official channels even finish filing paperwork. I need someone I can trust to work quietly off the record. Cashin nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? Find them. Use whatever resources you need, but keep it discreet. We can't let anyone know we're running our own investigation. Rothman stood, the privacy field flickering as he prepared to leave. And Cashin, be careful. Whoever took those blueprints won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who gets in their way. After Rothman left, Cashin sat in the dim light of his office, his mind racing through possibilities. An official investigation meant working within systems designed to be slow and careful. But tracking stolen technology across the lawless edges of known space required different skills entirely. It required someone who knew the gray markets, the hidden trade routes, the places where illegal goods change hands away from prying eyes. It required someone like Thera Solwind. The decision took less than a minute. Cashin grabbed his personal communicator and input the coordinates she'd given him. Within seconds, a voice crackled through, sleepy and confused. Do you have any idea what time it is on this side of the station? Thera's voice was rough from sleep, but still carried that musical quality. I need your help, Cashin said simply. There was a pause. When she spoke again, all traces of sleep had vanished. The diplomat needs help from a salvager? This must be serious. It is. Can we meet? Somewhere private. Docking Bay 7, maintenance sublevel. 20 minutes. And Vale, come alone or don't come at all. The docking bay's maintenance sublevel was a far cry from the gleaming diplomatic levels Cashin usually inhabited. Exposed pipes dripped condensation, and the lighting flickered intermittently. Thera's ship, the Star Dancer, occupied one of the smaller berths. It was exactly as she described it. Not much to look at. A battered cargo runner that had clearly seen decades of hard use. But even Cashin's untrained, I could see the modifications, enhanced engines, military-grade sensors, weapons ports hidden beneath civilian plating. Thera waited at the base of her ship's ramp, arms crossed, wearing the same worn jacket, but looking far more alert than she'd sounded on the comm. So what's important enough for a diplomat to venture into the dirty parts of the station? Cashin quickly explained the situation, watching her expression shift from curiosity to understanding to something that might have been excitement. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment, her silver eyes studying him intently. You're asking me to help you track down technology thieves who probably have serious backing and zero morals, she said finally. That's dangerous, illegal in about 15 jurisdictions, and guaranteed to make powerful enemies. Yes, Cashin admitted. I'm in. He blinked in surprise. Just like that. Thera's smile was sharp. Cashin, if those blueprints reach the wrong hands, small operators like me will be completely shut out of space. Corporate powers will have such an advantage that the rest of us might as well sell our ships for scrap. Besides, her expression softened slightly, you could have reported me to station security, but you didn't. I pay my debts. I don't want you to feel obligated. I don't do anything out of obligation, she said firmly. I do it because it's the right move. She gestured to her ship. Now, are you to stand there looking diplomatic, or are you going to help me prep the Star Dancer for launch? We got thieves to catch. The next few hours blurred together as Cashin entered a world completely foreign to him. Thera moved through her ship with practiced efficiency, checking systems, loading supplies, and running diagnostics on equipment Cashin couldn't even name. He tried to help where he could, following her terse instructions, learning the difference between a plasma regulator and a fusion coupling. So where do we start? He asked as Thera fired up the main engines, feeling the ship thrum to life around them. The gray markets on Obsidian Station, she said, her hands dancing across the control panel. If someone's trying to move stolen tech, that's where they'll look for buyers. It's 3 days' travel, which gives us time to plan. She glanced at him, a hint of amusement in her silver eyes. Hope you're ready for this, diplomat. It's not going to be cocktail parties and pleasant conversation where we're going. I can handle it, Cashin said with more confidence than he felt. The Star Dancer lifted smoothly from the docking bay and accelerated toward open space. Through the viewport, Station Harmony grew smaller, its lights fading to just another star in the vast darkness. Cashin felt an unexpected sense of liberation, as if invisible chains he hadn't known he was wearing had suddenly fallen away. "You're smiling," Thera observed. "Am I?" "First time you've looked genuinely happy since I met you." She adjusted their heading, and the stars stretched into lines as they entered faster-than-light travel. "Freedom suits you, Vale." Those 3 days aboard the Star Dancer changed something fundamental in Cashin. Away from diplomatic protocols and carefully maintained appearances, he discovered parts of himself he'd buried under years of proper behavior. Thera was an excellent teacher, showing him how to read stellar charts, operate basic ship systems, and navigate the complex web of unofficial trade routes that crisscross a galaxy. But more than that, he learned about her, how she'd been orphaned young when her parents' ship was destroyed in a corporate mining dispute, how she built the Star Dancer from salvage, piece by piece, teaching herself engineering through trial and error, how she valued freedom above all else because she'd seen what happened when it was taken away. Late on the second night, as the ship's automated systems handled their course, they sat in the small common area sharing a meal Thera had prepared from surprisingly fresh ingredients. "You're not what I expected," Cashin admitted, watching her across the table. The soft lighting caught the shimmer in her purple skin, making her seem almost otherworldly. "What did you expect? A lawless space pirate?" "Maybe," he smiled. "Instead, I found someone with stronger principles than half the diplomats I work with." Thera's expression grew serious. "Those principles have cost me plenty of opportunities. I could have taken jobs that paid better if I was willing to bend my ethics. But then I'd just be another cog in the same machine I'm trying to stay free from." She met his eyes. "What about you? Why become a diplomat if you're so uncomfortable with all the pretense?" The question hit deeper than she probably intended. "I thought I could make a difference," Cashin said slowly. "Change things from within the system. But lately I wonder if I'm just maintaining a status quo that benefits fewer people every year." "So change it," Thera said simply. "It's not that easy." "It never is. But that doesn't mean it's not worth doing." She reached across the table, her hand covering his. The touch sent electricity up his arm. "You're brave enough to hunt technology thieves with a salvager you barely know. Maybe you're brave enough for bigger changes, too." Their eyes locked, and Cashin felt the air between them charged with possibility. He'd been attracted to her from the moment they met, but this was different. This was deeper, more real than anything he'd felt in his carefully controlled diplomatic life. Before either could speak, the ship's proximity alarm blared, shattering the moment. Thera was on her feet instantly, racing to the cockpit with Cashin close behind. The sensors showed 3 ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel directly in their path. Military-grade vessels, unmarked but bristling with weapons. "They found us," Thera said grimly, her hands already working the controls. "Or someone sold us out. Hold on, this is going to get rough." The Star Dancer dove and twisted as weapons fire streaked past. Thera's skill as a pilot immediately evident. She threaded through the hostile ships with impossible precision, using their larger size against them, making them risk hitting each other if they fired carelessly. "Can you reach that panel?" she shouted over the sound of straining engines, pointing to a console behind Cashin. "Red button activates countermeasures." Cashin lunged for it, pressing the button just as a missile locked onto their position. Chaff and electronic interference exploded from the Star Dancer, sending the missile spinning harmlessly into space. Another tight turn, another near miss, and then they were clear, jumping back into faster-than-light travel before their pursuers could reorient. In the sudden quiet that followed, both of them were breathing hard. Thera checked their systems while Cashin tried to calm his racing heart. "That wasn't random," she said. "Someone knew we were looking for those blueprints. Someone with resources. Which means we're on the right track," Cashin replied. "And they're scared." Thera looked at him, something like respect in her silver eyes. "You know this means it's going to get more dangerous, right? We could still turn back." "No," Cashin said firmly. "We finished this." Her smile was radiant. "Knew I liked you, diplomat." Obsidian Station lived up to its name, a massive structure of dark metal and shadows orbiting a dead star. Unlike the gleaming diplomatic stations Cashin knew, This place made no pretense of legitimacy. It existed in a legal gray zone, claimed by no government, regulated by no authority, except the unwritten rules of the black market. Thera guided the Star Dancer through the chaotic traffic pattern with practiced ease. Ships of every size and configuration came and went, most of their identification transponders either disabled or broadcasting false information. "Stay close to me," she instructed as they prepared to disembark. "Don't make eye contact with anyone unless I do first. Don't touch anything. And whatever you do, don't act like a diplomat." "How should I act?" "Like you belong here. Like you've done 1,000 deals in places worse than this." She paused at the airlock, studying him critically. "Actually, lose the jacket. You look too clean." Cashin removed his diplomatic jacket, feeling oddly naked without it. Thera nodded approval and led them into the station. The main concourse was overwhelming, a sensory assault of sounds, smells, and sights that no diplomatic reception had prepared him for. Vendors hawked questionable goods from makeshift stalls. Beings of dozens of species haggled in multiple languages. The air smelled of ozone, exotic spices, and something vaguely chemical that made Cashin's eyes water. Thera navigated through it all like she owned the place, exchanging nods with certain vendors, avoiding others entirely, reading social cues that Cashin couldn't even perceive. They descended 3 levels through progressively seedier corridors until they reached a door marked only with a symbol Cashin didn't recognize. "This is Rennick's place," Thera explained quietly. "Information broker. If anyone knows about stolen quantum tech, it's him. Let me do the talking." The interior was dimly lit, filled with holographic displays showing data streams from across the galaxy. Behind a curved desk sat a being that might have been humanoid once, but was now more machine than organic. Cybernetic enhancements covering most of visible body. Thera Soulwind. A synthesized voice emerged from speakers embedded in the being's chest. "Haven't seen you on Obsidian in 6 months. I heard you'd gone legitimate." "Just visiting old friends," Thera replied smoothly. "I need information, Rennick. Quantum core blueprints. Stolen from Station Harmony 3 days ago." Rennick's optical sensors whirred, focusing first on Thera, then on Cashin. "And you brought a diplomat with you. How delightfully unexpected. That information will cost you, Thera, more than usual, given how hot that particular item is. Name your price." The location of the Stellar Wind wreckage. Cashin felt Thera stiffen beside him. The Stellar Wind had been her parents' ship. Finding its wreckage would mean finally learning the truth about what had happened to them. It was probably the one piece of information she valued above everything else. "Deal," Thera said, her voice steady despite what Cashin knew it cost her. Rennick's synthetic laugh echoed through the room. "You always were too honest for your own good. The blueprints are being sold tonight at the Crimson Auction House. 3 levels down. A Vexian trader named Kellix is handling the transaction." But Thera, the machine being's tone grew serious. "The buyer is Dracath military. If you interfere, they'll kill you without hesitation." "Noted," Thera replied. "The Stellar Wind?" Rennick transmitted coordinates to her datapad. "Gamma sector, beyond the drift." "I'm sorry, Thera. What happened to them was an accident. They left quickly," Thera's face unreadable. Cashin wanted to ask if she was okay, but the crowded corridors weren't the place. They made it back to a small alcove near the Star Dancer before she finally stopped walking, leaning against the wall with her eyes closed. "You didn't have to do that," Cashin said softly. "Yes, I did. Those blueprints are bigger than my need for closure." She opened her eyes, and he saw determination burning there alongside grief. "Besides, now I know the truth. They were murdered for refusing to haul corporate weapons. At least now I can prove it someday." Cashin felt a surge of admiration for this woman who'd sacrificed her most precious secret to stop a war. "We'll get those blueprints back. Together." "Together," she agreed, and something passed between them, an understanding that went beyond words. The plan they formed was risky, bordering on suicidal. The Crimson Auction House was heavily guarded, filled with the most dangerous criminals in the sector. But they had one advantage. No one would expect a human diplomat and a Stellarian salvager to attempt a direct assault. "You're absolutely sure about this?" Thera asked as they prepared, checking weapons and equipment. You could still walk away. Go back to your safe diplomatic life. Cashin met her silver eyes. I'm not walking away from this. Or from you. The words hung in the air between them, laden with meaning neither had fully acknowledged until now. Thera crossed the distance between them in 2 steps, her hand cupping his face gently. You're full of surprises, Cashin Vale. So are you, Thera Soulwind. Their kiss was inevitable, a collision of 2 worlds finally finding common ground. When they pulled apart, both were breathing hard, but for entirely different reasons than their earlier combat. After this is over, Thera said, assuming we survive, we need to talk about this. Agreed, Cashin smiled. But first, let's steal some blueprints. The auction house assault went surprisingly well, right up until it didn't. They'd managed to infiltrate during the chaos of multiple simultaneous bids. Thera's technical skills getting them past security, while Cashin's diplomatic training helped them blend with the crowd. They'd located Kellex and confirmed he had the blueprints in a secure case. The problem came when Cashin recognized the Drakic buyer, General Vorkith, the same military leader who'd been pushing for war with humanity for years. If he got those blueprints, conflict was inevitable. Change of plans, Cashin whispered urgently. We can't just take the blueprints. We need to expose this entire operation. That's not what we agreed on, Thera hissed back. I know, but it's what needs to happen. He pulled out his diplomatic communicator, the one thing he kept from his old life. I can broadcast from here, transmit proof to every major government simultaneously, but I'll be burning every bridge I have in the diplomatic corps. Thera studied him in the dim light, understanding dawning in her expression. You give up everything you've worked for the right reasons? Yes. He smiled at her. A wise woman once told me that principles matter more than opportunities. Her answering smile was brilliant. Then let's burn it all down together. What followed was chaos of the best kind. Cashin broadcast everything, the theft, the auction, the Drakic military involvement, all of it transmitted simultaneously to the Galactic Council, human authorities, and even the independent trader networks. Alarms blared, security forces from multiple jurisdictions descended on the auction house, and in the confusion, Thera secured the blueprints while Cashin downloaded every file in Kellex's database as evidence. They barely made it back to the Star Dancer, military ships already scrambling to intercept. But Thera was the best pilot Cashin had ever seen, and she threaded through the blockade with centimeters to spare, jumping to faster-than-light travel just as the pursuit reached firing range. In the sudden quiet of hyperspace, they looked at each other and started laughing, the adrenaline-fueled laughter of people who just accomplished the impossible. You know your diplomatic career is probably over, Thera said when they caught their breath. Probably, Cashin agreed. I imagine several governments want to arrest me for unauthorized military intelligence transmission. And you're okay with that? He looked around the small ship that had become more home than any diplomatic quarters ever had. More than okay. I'd rather be free and right than prestigious and compromised. Thera moved closer, her hand finding his. So what now, former diplomat? Now! Cashin pulled her into his arms, marveling at how perfectly she fit there. Now I learned to be a proper salvager, if you'll have me as crew. Crew? Thera laughed, her silver eyes shining. I was thinking more like co-captain. The Star Dancer could use someone who knows how to negotiate legal contracts when we actually need them. Co-captain sounds perfect. Their kiss this time was unhurried, a promise of future adventures and a life built on their own terms. When they finally pulled apart, Thera keyed in new coordinates. Where are we going? Cashin asked. Gamma Sector. I have a wreck to investigate and a murder to prove. Then maybe we find some honest salvage work, help a few independent operators stand up to corporate bullying. She glanced at him, hope and happiness mixing in her expression. That sound good to you? Cashin looked at the woman who'd crashed into his life uninvited and changed everything. A woman who valued freedom and honesty above all else. A woman who'd shown him what it meant to live by principles instead of protocols. That sounds perfect, he said. The Star Dancer raced through the darkness between stars, carrying two souls who'd found in each other what they'd been searching for all along. Behind them lay the structures and systems of their old lives. Ahead stretched infinite possibilities, as vast and unknowable as space itself. And for the first time in his carefully planned life, Cash and Vale had absolutely no idea what tomorrow would bring. It was the most liberating feeling in the galaxy. The end.